engaged on the side of the Orochi snake, Akutsu Shinichiro, who was hiding in the fog, seized the opportunity and aimed at Yuan Hao, who looked the weakest among the group. He held a metal bat in his hand, with a hideous maniacal grin on the corner of his mouth, and swung it at Yuan Hao's head. When Yuan Hao realized that Akutsu was attacking, he was so scared that his face turned pale, and he covered his chest as he shouted, "Ling Ling." The next moment, Xiao Lingling, who was still fighting the Orochi snake, appeared in front of Yuan Hao at a strange speed. Bang! Akutsu's metal bat hit her arm with a dull thud. Akutsu was a little surprised at how powerful the blow was. But it had not smashed the woman's arm along with her body to pieces. Xiao Lingling stared at him, her eyes filled with an endless murderous intent. "How dare you lay a hand on my husband? Do you want to die?" Xiao Lingling stopped Akutsu Shinichiro's metal baseball bat with her body alone. This surprised Akutsu a little. Even enhancement-type mutants, who rely on physical combat, will use weapons to some extent. What a cocky little girl. Akutsu laughed, and the power in his hands began to increase. "Anyone who touches my husband will die," shouted Xiao Lingling. Akutsu began to charge towards Xiao Lingling and replied, "Then we'll just have to take you out first." The western and northern battlefields were already in full swing. However, the southeastern region, where Zhang Yi was located, was unusually quiet at the moment, which made everyone confused as to what was going on. Zhang Yi listened to the war reports from there, and a feeling of suspicion arose in his heart. Why haven't the Eclipse Moon people come yet? Could it be that there is some kind of big conspiracy? In the combat center, Zhu Jing also frowned. Why hasn't anyone appeared from Zhang Yi's direction? Is there a problem with Zhang Yi, or is there a problem with the people from Eclipse Moon? Tu Yunlai turned his head and looked at Zhu Zheng. "Commander Zhu, sitting around like Zhang Yi while the others are fighting is not helpful to our plan. Order his team to advance towards the interior of Jiangning Square." Zhu Jing pondered for a while and nodded. He switched to Zhang Yi's side of the communication channel and issued the order. "Zhang Yi, you continue to advance. The enemy's movements in your direction are very strange. Now you are advancing towards the center of Jiangning Square. Gather intelligence." Zhang Yi responded indifferently, "Roger that." After ending the communication, he looked into the depths of Jiangning Square, which was shrouded in thick fog, making everything indistinct. If he continued forward, he might run into the main force of Eclipse Moon. After all, at the moment, 8 members of Eclipse Moon had yet to show up. Even with Zhang Yi's strength, he doesn't like to take risks. Seeing Zhang Yi's expression, Liang Yu couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong? What orders did headquarters give?" Zhang Yi said, "They said the enemy here is acting strangely, and asked us to investigate further." Liang Yu also frowned. "Investigate further? In that case, the risk will be even greater." She looked at Zhang Yi. "What are you going to do?" Zhang Yi smiled. "What else can we do? Headquarters has issued an order, so we'll just do as they say." Liang Yu was a little surprised. Zhang Yi didn't seem like the type of person who would just do as he was told. But when she saw the meaningful smile at the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth, she suddenly realized that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Sure enough, Zhang Yi led them away from the building and found Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li, who were keeping watch downstairs. Zhang Yi said to them, "There are no enemies here, so headquarters has told us to keep moving." Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li glanced at each other, and both thought to themselves, "That's as it should be. Well, we should move too." The 2 women nodded, and Zhang Yi took the lead and walked towards the interior of Jiangning Square. After advancing more than 100 meters, Zhang Yi stopped. He pointed at a building in front of them and said, "Let's take a closer look here. We'll defend ourselves from here." Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li widened their eyes and looked stunned. "What? Right here? Didn't the headquarters say that we were to enter Jiangning Square and scout around?" Only Liang Yu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh secretly. She knew Zhang Yi's style of doing things all too well. It was really too much to expect him to be that obedient. Zhang Yi said sternly, "This mission is of great importance, and we must be cautious. Therefore, I have decided to observe the situation here carefully before making any plans. He had only promised Zhu to advance, but he had not said how far. Would he really let his team enter the center of Jiangning Square and risk their lives with the Eclipse Moon's main force? He was not stupid. The other party is likely to have mutants approaching the Epsilon level, and Zhang Yi is not arrogant enough to think that he can protect everyone's lives. Anyway, the mutants in their outer city are not the main force. They've only taken some supplies, so what's the big deal? Chen Xiaoxiao and Peng Li were completely speechless. They also knew that the other two fronts had already begun fighting, so if they were told to do nothing, wouldn't they just be watching as someone else took the mission points? Zhang Yi, if you do this, haven't we come here for nothing? Chen Xiaoxiao said, unable to hold back her anger. Her eyes were fixed on Zhang Yi's, and she was already a little dissatisfied. But Zhang Yi said calmly, there are no finite tasks. But there is only one life. I think the prerequisite for completing a task is to prioritize protecting your own life. Chen Xiaoxiao's tone fell. But we came here for a reason. I'm sorry, I can't be as cowardly as you are. In order to survive, I can let ruffians run rampant on our land. Zhang Yi glanced at her and gave a approving clap. That's pretty good, you're really something. So if you're not happy, you can just leave. I'm not forcing you to act together with me. Zhang Yi and Chen Xiaoxiao had a falling out. Chen Xiaoxiao was never convinced that Zhang Yi should be the captain. Now she saw that Zhang Yi was being so lazy, delaying her from completing the task and earning points. She lost her temper and confronted Zhang Yi directly. Zhang Yi was not at all used to her, telling her that if she was unhappy, she could leave. Chen Xiaoxiao's eyes fixed on Zhang Yi, and she clenched her fists, furious. She felt that her luck was really bad, and she had even encountered such a cowardly teammate. After Zhang Yi finished speaking, Peng Li couldn't hold back anymore. She rushed up, put her hands on her hips, and rebuked Zhang Yi, just go. With you as captain, we won't even get a single point. People like you won't amount to anything in the future. You've got no guts. She snorted, and reached out to take Chen Xiaoxiao's arm. Xiao, let's go on our own. Chen Xiaoxiao's brow furrowed even deeper. If they split up, the two of them would not be able to handle an Eclipse Moon Master if they encountered one. But Zhang Yi's approach to things was something she could not approve of at all. Seeing that staying behind would only result in them continuing to mess around with Zhang Yi here, it would be better to leave and try it out for themselves. After all, their mission was only to lure the Eclipse Moon, not defeat it. Even if they encountered an Eclipse Moon member, the Heavenly God Squad could back them up. With this in mind, Chen Xiaoxiao said, fine, we don't see eye to eye. We'll part ways here. Peng Li gave Zhang Yi a chin nod, just wait and see. After we get the points and take over Linhai City, you'll be sorry. After the two said that, they turned around without hesitation and left, cautiously advancing towards the thick fog. Zhang Yi looked at their backs as they disappeared into the thick fog and raised an eyebrow. They have no idea what level of opponents they are up against. Not everyone has experienced battles of Tianhai City's caliber. Perhaps to Peng Li and Chen Xiaoxiao, they are already very powerful as Delta-level mutants. But they don't understand that there are also differences between mutants. So far, the boundaries of human classification of mutants are very vague. Although there is no concept of being divided into 1 to 9 sublevels, there is a very large depth between the same levels. The top-level Delta-class mutants can kill ordinary Delta-class mutants in seconds. Even Zhang Yi dared not to be careless. Why were they so arrogant? Do they trust the Heavenly God Squad to protect them? Haha, it is too childish to entrust your life to others. You asked for it, so don't blame me if you die. Zhang Yi ignored them and resolutely chose to stay put and continue to observe the movements around him. It wasn't that he didn't want to contribute to the mission. He just understood that the mutants in the outer city were all decoys. The main force of the actual operation was the Heavenly God Squad. But why was the Heavenly God Squad able to wait in the wings for an opportunity to strike, while he, Zhang Yi, couldn't? When necessary, Zhang Yi could exert a combat effectiveness that was far more significant than the vast majority of the members of the Heavenly God Squad. Therefore, he will not attack blindly. He must be patient and wait for the enemy to make a mistake. There's one more question that Zhang Yi has not figured out. That is, why is no one coming in his direction? Why aren't they coming? Don't they want to come? Zhang Yi rested his chin in his hand and fell into deep thought.